Get ready. Get set. Hold on. It's time for the Mouth of Matuszak show. And it's going to be one hell of a ride. Good morning. I'm your host, Paul-Gregory Matuszak, and welcome to this show for Wednesday, July 30th, 2014. And like I said, we have a heck of a show for you this morning, or if you're listening to the podcast at whatever time you're listening to it, one heck of a show for you. Over the last couple of days, we've been able to highlight some of the ridiculousness coming out of various political parties and political ideologies out there. And we're probably going to have a little bit more on this show to kind of point and laugh at, for those of you who like to point and laugh at ridiculousness. I did want to open up the show this morning repeating a clip that I played yesterday of Miss Eleanor Norton and her statements regarding the separation of powers and how you have no right to know what your government is doing, no right to know what your legislators are up to and what they're doing in their secret meetings in a separation of powers government, and showing just how far gone she is. She has no idea what the term separation of powers means, because it sounds like, the way she used it, that the powers that be, the ones who are elected into office, are separate from the people, the little people. Almost like she thinks she's nobility by proxy or something. But if you want to catch that clip, it's less than a minute long, and you actually have her mustached face. And yes, it is her real mustache. It's not something that somebody drew on there. Squawking and making the idiotic claims that she was making, actually in a House session, in a congressional committee meeting. So go ahead on over to BuzzPo. That's www.buzzpo.com, and look up the clip. And there's a good little kind of a meme cartoon there. If you want to go and share that around, just please let everybody know that you found it over at BuzzPo. It was done up and authored by yours truly, so if you like it, go ahead and share it around. Share the humor and kind of let the people know. And if you don't like it, go ahead and leave a comment and let me and my bosses over at BuzzPo know what you think. Just please be cordial. We like honest criticism, not things that say, I don't like you, you're a dumb poo-poo head. I mean, come on. That's what 4-year-olds do when they don't have an articulate response. If you're an adult, act like one, please. But we appreciate that kind of feedback. Well, my coffee is really strong this morning, so of course it's having me clear my throat a little bit here, so I hope you all don't mind the occasional interruptions of me clearing throat. Speaking of clearing throats, I'm going to clear my throat here for a couple of seconds, or actually about 2 minutes, because I would like to start the show off with a little bit of good news. And this is kind of quasi-good news here, and as this report comes in, this is a clip coming out of CBS Boston. It's got some good news in it, but as you'll see, there's a lot of questions left open, and we'll kind of discuss it a little bit after you give a listen, so you know what I'm going to be talking for a minute or two about. So enjoy this clip, and like I said, it's a little bit of good news coming out of CBS Boston, and it's about a teenager from New Hampshire. And if you want to read a little bit more on the story, again, this is posted over at BuzzPo, so you can rewatch the video that the clip comes from, and kind of what the discussion is there. So take a listen. Well, I apologize, folks. I do a thorough show prep, and I did check that before the show, and it was playing properly. For some reason, we have a slight technical difficulty that goes on once in a while, where once in a while these things don't like to play. We are going to try it one more time and see if we can get this to play for y'all. Nope, we have a hiccup. Okay, the long and short is there was a teenager that went missing last October from New Hampshire. She was walking home from school, and she disappeared. She went missing. So, of course, the whole community got together and started doing searching for her, posting flyers. Parents and family friends distraught. 9 months, nothing. Constant searching and nothing. They even did some high-speed stuff to track her cell phone, and we were able to get a general location data on it that had up near a ski resort, and even went looking up there and looking all around for her. So for 9 months she was missing. Well, on Sunday she returned home. Now, not all the information about her return is being released. It's kind of being kept from the public, and it might be for good reason, because we don't know what happened to her. The general public does not. Her community does not. Her family and friends do not know where she's been for 9 months. They just know she was gone, and now she's back. However, several law enforcement agencies are involved, and there is an active investigation into what happened and where she was and what the disappearance was. So this leaves you to conjecture. This can be any number of things. Maybe she ran away, maybe she had a psychotic break, maybe she went off with friends and just decided not to go home, and she probably got tired of it and went back home, which of course, with the family, trying to get her to, find her and everything, which would raise a lot of costs involved and a lot of assets to search for somebody, especially if they were just doing that and, teenager just couldn't give a call home and say, hey, I'm out, I'm gone, and I'm not coming home. If that was the case, we don't know. But think about a lot of other things that have gone on. Think about the young lady who was taken out of her bedroom window, and actually investigated the parents, thinking they may have done something, and I forget the lady's name, the little girl's name, but she eventually came home. It turned out that she was abducted by some crazy old man who locked her up and wanted to treat her like first a daughter and then a wife. And she escaped eventually and made it back. And then you had the 3 young ladies who were in detention in, I want to say it was in Ohio, where the guy had the 3 young ladies down there, and one of them had actually mothered one of his children while they were in captivity, because they were kidnapped and turned into sex slaves. Sex slavery goes on. It goes on internally inside of our borders. We have sickos within our own borders who are doing this, and some of these sickos are U.S. citizens. Other ones are illegal immigrants or undocumented sex slavers. I don't know. The government likes to use the term undocumented. That just means they're not carrying their papers around, guys. They have no papers to begin with, and they're breaking the law. Sorry, they're criminals. They're illegals. But some of them are them that are doing this. So this is not just contained to some small segment of the population. So it is some of our own citizens doing it, and it is some people who are not citizens, and some people who are not citizens and not here legally too. And then young ladies and young men are kidnapped and brought from within our borders to outside of our borders and then shipped elsewhere and sold into slavery, usually for the sex trade. And then quite the reverse is also true, where young ladies are kidnapped from other countries and smuggled in for the same reason. And then you have these children who are coming over across the border in droves and in waves. And although many of them are ending up in Border Patrol hands, there are, for every one that's, or I can't give you the exact ratio, but you can probably extrapolate that for every 100 kids that have been turned into the BP, there's at least one who has been smuggled in and has not gone to BP hands, instead is in the hands of somebody who wants to use one of these children for something so vile, to rip their innocence away from them so violently. And that's really the way, that's what's happening if you think about it, especially when you're talking about an 11, 12, 13-year-old little girl or little boy. You know, it's appalling, it's disgusting, and it's probably happening. Because of how many are in the detention centers, they aren't really actively looking for this stuff going on. We have our hands full as a country right now with these waves of ones that are turning themselves in or getting snagged up very quickly as soon as they come across the border. So of course that's a concern, that it's being used as a distraction effort so they can take their chosen handpicked ones and put them into the nefarious and illicit and disgusting sex slave trade. So food for thought on that. But anyway, good news is that Abby Hernandez is back home with her family. So hopefully more information will come in the future concerning exactly what went on with her. But since we're discussing, since I kind of segued into it and hinted at, since we made a hint about immigration there, let us talk about immigration for a minute or two here. Evidently, yesterday on July 29th, a big, massive group of undocumented criminal illegal aliens decided to go and give a demonstration, demand immigration reform, and do all these things and have a big rally and protest outside the White House. Right there. Big, huge, visit, or big, huge rally right there in front of the White House, and making surprise visits to places like the Center for American Progress, National Immigration Forum, Leadership Conference on Civil Rights, etc., and then rallying in front of the White House. And there are some videos out there. You can go ahead and look through your YouTube and your live stream, and I'm sure you'll find some. And there's one letter that was delivered to one of the offices within the White House that says, or one of the advocacy groups, not exactly sure where this letter was sent to, but it was sent to somebody who they perceive could do something about immigration reform, and it says, "We have one shot to convince him to do the right thing." Of course, by him they mean Obama. "And we must unite to defend the decision if and when he does. It is clear that the people best qualified to make the case to the president are those illegal immigrants who are harmed by the status quo and who stand to be benefited by administrative relief." Basically, these are a bunch of illegals standing up and demanding their constitutional... Okay, let's step back on that one. Their rights under the U.S. Constitution and under our system of laws, their rights as citizens of the United States. All right. Let's think about that for a couple seconds. First, we as Americans, do believe that there are certain inalienable rights. There are certain rights given by the gods that are inherent to being a human being. They're tied to free will. They're tied to being alive. And those rights are not granted by any government. Governments just take them away or restrict them or regulate them. But they're not. The government doesn't give those rights. They're part of being alive, being human. Those rights, those people do have a natural, or do have the right to. They're human beings. However, the protections of the Constitution that are meant to ensure those rights, well, they're not U.S. citizens. So they don't have those protections, per se. They're not guaranteed them. They're not even resident aliens. They're not here legally. They are criminals. Criminals have done something illegal, and once convicted, part of their sentence is they lose some of those rights for a temporary time during incarceration. You lose liberty when you are incarcerated because you showed that you cannot responsibly handle your liberty and you used your liberty to harm others. That's what being in jail is all about. So they're sitting there and they're protesting. Well, they give these huge protests, and they're all illegals, or most of them are illegal aliens, and not a single arrest. They have, immigration and customs enforcement personnel and other law enforcement personnel all over the place there, watching it going on, and not a single arrest. Why not? Well, the excuse, the I ain't buying it excuse is they're not an arrest priority. All right, folks, let's think about arrest priorities. First of all, we know that in many communities, they're kind of jacked up. Think about this. Think about the main thoroughfare that goes near your community, near your neighborhood, near your town. That main street, so to speak, where the speed limit's a little bit higher than your residential neighborhoods. Now, the police don't usually go around the residential neighborhoods with their radar guns and get speeders, so you know that they're not really worried about safety, because if they were, they'd be arresting people doing 40 and a 25. They're not there. They're on the sides of the main thoroughfare where the speed limit's a little bit higher. And they're sitting there with radar guns, catching speeders, because speeders are an arrest priority. Why? Because when they arrest a speeder, 9 times out of 10, that person's going to end up paying a fine and court costs. And that fine, or some of that fine, part of it, goes into the city's coffers. It's not really a punitive action, so to speak. It's more of a means of collecting revenue. It's an acceleration tax. Really, think about it. Because if they were really worried about safety, like I said, they'd be inside the neighborhoods going after speeders, people doing 40 and a 25 in residential neighborhoods, and they're not there. And then if they were there, to top it off, maybe crime within those neighborhoods would be a little bit lower because you have a deterrent of a cop sitting there, albeit his arrest priority would be speeders. He'd still be there and able to respond a lot quicker to the home invaders who want to kick in a door. Or those home invaders may not do that because they know there's a cop in the neighborhood, although he's just going around with a radar gun. So, arrest priorities, my butt. Okay? Arrest priorities are a gobbledygook of bureaucratic BS. These people are committing a crime. You think some guy who's normally, going with his radar gun trying to do his arrest priority of catching speeders going down Main Street at 50 miles an hour in a 35 mile an hour zone are, that's their arrest priority. But you think that if a call comes in from some young lady who's screaming to the 911 operator that a couple of people wearing ski masks and carrying shotguns just kicked in her door and she's now trapped in her closet with her kid and she's screaming, she's scrambling to try to find her husband's gun that's not there for whatever reason, and they know that they're there to do bad things to her and her teenage daughter, plus steal whatever and smash up the house and Lord knows what these sickos do. That cop who's shooting, his radar gun and his arrest priority as speeders is going to respond. Probably he's going to get there too late to do anything, which is why, every adult who isn't a convicted felon and is of reasonable sanity should go and learn how to use a firearm and probably own one. Just my personal opinion, but you have a right to own one or not. Anyway, the cops